with you, my friend. And then for all of you who are joining us, my name is Artis Stevens. I'm the president and CEO of Big Brothers, Big Sisters of America. You are watching a very special edition of Little Big Chat. And this is a series that we've been doing for probably more than a year now that features conversations with influential leaders on the power of mentorship. And today I am honored to introduce you to an award-winning anchor of Today, a co-host of the third hour of Today, my friend Craig Melvin. Craig is an award-winning journalist who's covered everything from for Olympics to presidential inaugurations to the Super Bowl. What hasn't this man done? He's done a lot, and I'm excited to have you on. One of the things I will say that he's done, and he's been a big brother in the mission of Big Brothers, Big Sisters. So Craig, it is certainly a pleasure to have you on board today, man. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for the invitation, Artis. Good to see you again. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's jump into it. You know, I often talk about the village of support, right? And the idea of having people that are around you that help to inspire, and particularly inspire young people. You know, talk to us a little bit about some of the most influential mentors that you had in your life and what impact did they have on you?
Oh, that's a good question. You know, I've been blessed to have had a number of mentors along the way, and even now, some folks who I keep close. Professionally, when I was in Columbia, South Carolina, I started working in my hometown of Columbia, and I was working at a TV station there, WIS Television, the NBC affiliate, and my news director at the time, the guy who first hired me, a guy named Randy Covington, who's still there in Columbia and does some philanthropic work with my mother now, actually. But Randy was someone who took an early interest in me professionally. And this would have been, oh gosh, 1996, when I was a reporter in high school. He was the guy who kind of saw something in me before I saw it in myself. And since then has been a mentor to me. And so was his successor, a woman named Tina Blacklock, who took Randy's job after he left. She was also a mentor. And what was cool, and what's even cooler now, it's funny because Tina last week, she sent me a note that her son was graduating from high school. And I remember vividly when they adopted the boy. It was 18 years ago. So I said to her, I said, God, Tina, this is weird. Apparently, we're all getting older. But both of them were my bosses initially, and then they became mentors, and now they're friends. But they're relationships that I've had more than 20 years. And one of the things that I've always needed as a mentor, and you know this to be true, you know, you can surround yourself with sycophants and people who are always going to tell you how great you are and how wonderful everything is you're doing. And you need to have people around you who are going to shoot you straight, who can say, you know what, Craig, you could have done this a little bit better, or maybe next time you might want to do this. So those are the two that come to mind professionally the quickest.
Yeah. Yeah, what you said is so real, Craig. It is the idea of people bringing authenticity, right, into relationships, authenticity of themselves, the authenticity of engaging with you as someone who they're inspiring, and also the impact that you're making in their life. You know, as you think about those moments, right, you know, whether it's the two of them and how you describe the experience with them, or even someone else, you know, share with us about a mentorship moment that stayed with you to this day and that's really resonated in your life.
Oh, that's good. That's a good question. There was a guy, his name's Steve Crocker. And Steve was the evening news anchor in Columbia, South Carolina. And there was this young reporter who they were bringing in and sort of grooming him to take over for Steve. The problem is Steve's still there, and there was an uncomfortable situation that existed as a result of this guy who I had really come to admire. He knew that they wanted me to have his job, and it had gotten to a point where people were starting to talk in the newsroom, and I said, Steve, I'd like to talk to you about the elephant in the room. And Steve took me on a walk around the block there in downtown Columbia. I'll never forget it. We walked around. He said his piece. I said my piece. And he said, Craig, if you stay in this business, long enough, or even if you get out of this business, there's one thing that's always going to remain true. You'll always be to something. Huh, really? He said, yes. You'll be too young. You'll be too old. You'll be too black. You'll be too gay. You'll be too Southern. You'll always be to something. So you should always just be who you are. And it's always stayed with me. That was a mentorship moment that has served me well in the 25 years since that conversation. And I've seen Steve a couple of times since then. And I told him once, some years ago, how much that walk around the block mattered, and how his comments that afternoon have always stayed with me. So yeah, that's a mentorship moment that's endured.
Yeah. Listening to that, Craig, the conversation that you had was the conversation that a lot of our bigs and lows, right, have all the time. And even the walk, right? I can't tell you how often we talk about the walk, right? Where in our relationships, it's these types of activities, these experiences, but it's these real relationships. And one of the things that our bigs always tell us, right? They always say that the little made just as much impact or more on their lives than they made on theirs, right? And I want you to talk a little bit about that. I mean, from a couple different perspectives. And I'll give you an option here. One, you were a former big, right? You know the program. You've had the experience. Love for you to expand on the idea of how the mentee played an impact in your life. The other extension that I will give you, though, too, is that you're also a dad, man, right? And that's a conversation the both of us have had as well. And you can also, like, what's the impact in terms of young people, even like with your kids and what you learn from them and the power that they have to be mentors in our lives as well?
It's an important question. I'll take the second part first because, I've got a 9-year-old son and a 6-year-old daughter. So, as you know, when you have children that young, your weekends are not your own. And I essentially run a shuttle service on the weekends between gymnastics and dance and basketball. And then this past weekend, we went to a horse race. And so, it's my children have taught me, and I don't think this was an accident, because I struggled and still do struggle mightily with patience. I'm not naturally a patient person. So my job serves me well because I'm on deadline all the time, every day. Today's show starts at the same time every day, no matter what. And has for more than 70 years. So I have to be ready. And I think as a result, sometimes when I'm not here and I'm not working in a professional setting, sometimes I can be very impatient because things aren't moving like I want them to. My children have forced me to be patient over the years. I just, I typically do what I want them to do, how I want them to do it, when I want them to do it. It's just, as a parent, you learn that quickly. And so that's been probably the biggest thing that my children have taught me. They've taught me patience. But when I was a big, I mentored a kid who we grew up very differently. He had a single mom who had fallen on some hard times, and she was having some health issues. And so when I would go and pick him up, I would see how he was living and how different it was from my upbringing. And at first it really bothered me because I thought it was terribly unfair. The hand that he had been dealt, Artis, was unfair. And after a year or two, I don't believe in accidents. I think that God sometimes reveals things in our lives for a host of reasons. And after a while, I realized I was supposed to be in his life to model what he did not have. And he did not have an active father figure. And as a result, little did I know at the time, until years later, I was learning how to kind of be a dad in a lot of ways as well, modeling good behavior, having uncomfortable conversations. And so the kid sort of helped me practice. But he also, he helped teach me a sense of gratitude. You know, you don't realize, at least I didn't realize at that age. I was in my 20s. So, you know, you're in your 20s, there's a whole lot you don't know, but you think you know a lot. There's a whole lot you know. And I just, in my 20s, it kind of assumed that most kids had a decent shot at success. And then when you can see something up close that turns that on its head, it's, by the way, Artis, someone's just asking me on this thing, would you consider Al Roker a mentor? And I would say he is probably, in my life right now, my biggest mentor. And not just because we are in the same business. I aspire to do what he's done in the sense of longevity. I mean, the guy's been doing it for 40 years. And he's also one of these people, Artis. And sometimes in our line of work, when the little red light goes off in the camera, people can be different, shall we say.
Yeah.
He's not one of those people. Same on, same off, same on Monday, same on Saturday. It's just, and great husband, great father. You know, he's yes. The short answer is yes. I would consider him a mentor.
Yeah. Well, listen, my friend, I would say the same thing about the red light with you as well. What you see is what you get, my friend, and I appreciate that as well. You know, you talked about being, you know, a mentor to this young boy, right? And at the age you were, and as being a man, right? We got 30,000 kids on our waiting list. Of those 30,000 kids, most of them are boys, right? And most of those boys and their families are seeking men as mentors, right? And attracting men is a priority of our work at Big Brothers Big Sisters. We're committed to it. You know, one of the things we always talk about is the idea of the experience of, so what does it take, right, to be a mentor? And what does it mean? What would you say to men out there, right, who look at this and say, I don't know. I don't know about the idea of mentorship. I'm not sure if it's built for me. I'm not perfect. I don't have the time. I have all these different things that may be going through my mind. You know, what would you share in terms of your insights and experience?
I would share the same advice that someone gave me years ago before I became a parent, and I was worried about the kind of dad I would be. And someone said to me, a buddy of mine, he said, you know, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. And it's true. And I've heard it since then as well. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be there physically. And I think sometimes people underestimate the value in that. Just time, just being able to spend time. And in terms of the time commitment, and even when I did it years ago, I remember that was a chief concern. And the woman who was running the program back then, she said, Craig, you make it what you want it to be. It doesn't have to be, 30 minutes every Tuesday afternoon forever. So you figure out what works with your schedule, and some weeks, some months, it's a Saturday afternoon, and then maybe it's a Sunday morning. You can, and I don't think that's changed with the program. I remember there being a great deal of flexibility. So those would be the two things that I would say for anyone who's considering becoming a big. You don't have to be perfect, and the reality is no one is. And so just show up, be present.
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it, man. So another message, this time to young people, right? All of those littles, whether they're little or not, right? Here's what we believe. The idea is that we want more access to positive mentorship for any young person in this country, whether Big Brothers Big Sisters deliver it or another organization. The most important thing is that people have good relationships and kids have access and opportunities to positive relationships. And for the young people out there that are listening to this or will listen to this, or someone right now who's listening say, hey, I work with a young person, somebody in my family member, whatever it may be, right? what advice would you offer to young people in determining their path, determine whether the path is one in life or whether one in career? What advice would you offer them as they continue to progress?
To be relentless and to not be dissuaded by hiccups along the way, roadblocks, speed bumps. You know, I think, unfortunately, going back to my impatience, I think that it's ended up serving me well professionally, but there were a number of times along the way, especially early on, where I thought, yeah, you know, I really enjoy storytelling. I really want to be a journalist at the highest level, but you know, I didn't get that job, or I didn't get that promotion. It's not happening in the time and way that I thought it would, and it rarely does. You know, it rarely goes as scripted. And had I given up and stopped and just, you know, gone to law school or grad school and got a real job, as some back then encouraged me to do, you and I aren't having this conversation.
Yeah.
You know? So I would just say, and I know it sounds hokey and cheesy, but I continue to believe it to be true. If you have something that's in here that you really want to do, and you believe in your heart of hearts and your soul of souls, that is what you are on this earth to do, don't stop. Don't stop. You know, the road curves. It curves.
That's right.
But you'll get there. You'll get there.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. You'll get there. All right. So listen, I have to say this. My wife is from Orangeburg, family, Columbia. So they want to send you a lot of love and send you a lot of South Carolina love. So they say, come on back down and visit the spot sometime here soon.
I would love to. And so would my mother. Believe you me, my mother and father. We don't get home enough. But no, if your wife's from Orangeburg, that's the real South Carolina.
Oh, man, let me tell you. She tells me that all the time, brother.
You know, everyone knows Charleston. Everyone knows Columbia, Greenville. But Orangeburg, you got a good one.
Yeah, I know that, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you and appreciate you joining, Craig, and sharing your story, sharing your inspiration, sharing your passion. And I just want to say again, one of the biggest things I appreciate about you having to have the opportunity to get to know you here over the last couple of years is just the authenticity, man, that you bring. You are the same person no matter what, and you give of yourself, you give of your time. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate that at Big Brothers Big Sisters. You are a true game changer, my friend.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you for all that you're doing as well. It's God's work, so keep doing it. We need you.
All right. Well, listen, everyone, thank you for joining Little Big Chat. If you want to be a big and you want to sort of connect with a young person, feel free to go to bbbs.org and find a local Big Brothers Big Sisters near you. All right. Y'all take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye, everyone. Peace and love.